What's up, everybody? Michael Johnson here with Backstage Choreo Live. I'm excited to be here today because we are going to be talking more about systems. Imagine that. Yeah, if you don't know, I like to talk about systems, business systems, personal systems, things that go on between those ears of yours, and systems that can help make the quality of your life better, because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your systems. Whether you like it or not, there are systems that you run on a regular basis. And if you didn't create them, who did? Crazy question, crazy thought. Watch out, that's a rabbit hole. All right, so if you've been watching some of the Backstage Choreo Lives, we have been digging deep into the business choreography systems framework, and that includes multiple frameworks: the E7S framework, which stands for the Essential 7 Business Systems, and we've dug into the Meta 4 framework, which is the Meta 4 Systems framework, and we have built some of those systems together, and we've played with some basic concepts and some basic systems within those frameworks. And I thought we'd do something a little different today. Not really, but kind of. We're going to talk about the TCL, which is the choreography layer. And I've been building these systems for years and trying to put together these frameworks for years, working with so many different businesses, running businesses, building businesses, helping other people with their businesses, and even with their minds. And one of the things that I've learned along the way was that no system was going to be successful without some really great choreography. However, once I started to develop and understand the concept of choreography within business and within how we create systems, then I ended up on a journey of trying to explain choreography, which was a challenge. And it's gotten easier because of this framework. This framework is called the choreography layer. And the choreography layer is super cool. This is, let me move my head here out of the way just a bit. And this is the choreography layer framework. You'll notice it's made up of a couple of omega symbols that are overlapped on itself. And that's because omega stands for the end, but these are layered. So you'll notice that a well-formed system is symbolized in our frameworks by, here, I'll just throw it up on the screen, the alpha systems framework, which is the alpha symbol, right? Of course, we've adapted it a little bit, but you've got alpha, and then here with the choreography layer, you have omega. So a well-formed system is got some pretty sound principles, but the choreography layer, well, let's just dig into that for just a quick moment in case you haven't heard about it and in case you haven't been inside our community where I teach about this stuff all the time, or if you haven't watched the BCSF masterclass, which you can watch for free if you'd like, and it teaches all about this. But the TCL framework has a whole bunch of things in it that are the interconnecting layers of how systems come together, not only within themselves, but without themselves. That was a little deep, but with how they connect to each other and how they layer over and interact with each other. This is super important. What I realized was that just creating systems without understanding how you could choreograph them together was negligent on my part, because I understood choreography at a very deep level. So what we're going to talk about today, we're actually going to jump right into talking about the principles of choreography. Now, there are a bunch. So this is not going to be the exhaustive list. We are actually going to just cover a couple of them because this is fun. So normally I would come in and we'd be building some systems together, but we've been doing a lot of that lately. And so I thought it would be fun to come in and just have a conversation about a couple of the principles of choreography. because I think it really matters. I think it really matters for you as you are on your journey of building more and more systems and implementing better systems into your business. You see, I know who you are. And if you're not this person, that's okay. You can stick around if you'd like, or you can leave, and that's totally cool. But you probably sell a product that is based off of your information. You see, you're probably more insight led, and you probably have a business that is insight led. That's kind of why I call you guys experts, because experts typically create businesses that are insight led, not product led. What is product led? Well, maybe those people that are buying products and having them manufactured in some other country and having them shipped here at a certain price, figuring out the margins and then selling them on Amazon or on eBay, or selling them in your store in a brick and mortar. Not that, right? You're probably somebody who has an expertise that you are trying to productize and service-ize. That's not a word. Okay, but anyway, you get the idea. So what I want to dig into just a little bit today is a couple of the principles that you can take with you on your journey, because I have spent a lot of time in my life choreographing lots of things, from my dance days to my days. Whoa, I disappeared. There we go. I clicked the wrong button. To my days choreographing coaching systems, to my days choreographing businesses, right? So I've done a lot of choreography in a lot of different spaces, and I want to share with you some of those principles that show up across the board, right? They show up in your personal systems, they show up in dance, they show up in business, they just keep showing up. Crazy. That's why we call them principles. But anyway, that's beside the point. So what we're going to dig into today here, I threw them on the systems board. A lot of you guys are, used to seeing the systems board. So I'll pull the systems board up here just as a place of reference. So there it is. There we go. Okay. Oh, my screen and StreamYard just freaked out and changed all sorts of weird sizes. Okay, here we go. So like I said, we've been building all sorts of different systems, right? We've been talking about basic systems for positioning choreography and nurture choreography, conversion choreography systems, just a ton of different things, right? And we've even worked on basic systems in the meta systems or metaphor systems. So what I want to do now is just jump into one of the principles of choreography, which is movement before perfection. Let's zoom in here. Here we go. There we go. Movement before perfection. So again, this is all in relationship to systems and building systems. And remember, we've come into this understanding that the framework is called the choreography layer. This is the layer where you work on your choreography skills, your ability to choreograph systems, right? And one of the things that is massively important is this idea and concept of movement before perfection. This is, I'm going to explain this by digging back into my dance days a little bit and sharing with you some stories from those days. Everybody kind of lets me know that they love hearing these stories. In fact, last night around the dinner table, my kids were like, tell us another story from your dancing. And I was like, okay, sure, let's. So we started talking about that stuff. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about being on the floor and choreographing. Now, an interesting thing happens. Now, I wasn't just a dancer, I was a ballroom dancer, which means that I had two people that I was choreographing for, right? We would be choreographing for all sorts of different levels, from what I would call my babies, which were like the beginner bronze, silver, gold syllabus level dancers, which isn't much choreography in that, mostly just sequencing, all the way up to my pros who were competing for US championships. And their choreography was much more demanding than the babies that I would choreograph for. But here's an interesting thing. You've heard of something called writer's block, and you've heard of different scenarios like writer's block. Well, the same thing happens to dancers, and certainly the same thing happens to choreographers. You get out there and you know you're supposed to choreograph something, and you're like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I found a way to overcome that really well. I say quickly, but it was a span of years that it actually took me to figure it out. And the same thing applies to business. And the solution was movement. The solution was movement. Getting momentum cannot be underrated. And I'm going to take a quick little example of learning to ride a bike. If you are learning to ride a bike, this is scary. Momentum and movement is scary. But if you're the one teaching somebody to ride a bike, you know inside, in your heart of hearts, in your soul, you know, because you can ride a bike, you know, if you could just get them moving, if you could just get them some momentum, all of a sudden, they would figure it out. And you know this. I have 4 kids, and I remember teaching my son, maybe it was my daughter, my first child. I remember teaching her to ride a bike, and you stand behind her and you're holding her and you're holding the seat and you're running along with them and you're like pedal and you're like trying to get them to move. Why? Because if they can gain just some momentum, we know that balance is easier. And we know that the continuation, the success of riding that bike will come if they can just gain some momentum. And so the same thing happens with choreography. When I was choreographing, regardless of what level, the worst thing I could do in that choreography was stand still. The worst thing I could do is sit there and think about what I was going to do. And the best thing that I always found, and I was a very fast choreographer. Not everybody was. That's not everybody's cup of tea. But I would have dancers and couples come to me because they knew that I was quick, I was fast. And part of how I gained that speed was I learned over the course of doing it that momentum was more important than perfection. That the momentum and the movement would create clarity. It wouldn't necessarily create perfection, but it would create clarity. And the momentum and the movement would actually start to create continuity and flow. And that's one of the other principles we'll talk about another time, flow over force. But we'll get to that another time. We have 2 that we're going to just dig into today. And this one needs to come first. But with momentum, things seem to connect better because they had to connect better because they were in flow. They were in momentum. And then perfection could come later. But every single time I was trying to create a perfect piece of choreography, it ended up being really crappy. It wasn't good. Like I was trying to make it really good. And the harder I tried to make it really good, the worse it was. And the more likely it was that it would have to be changed over time. But what I ended up finding out is that the quicker I could go, the faster I could go and be in flow and be in the movement and be in the action, the quicker I could go, the better the piece of choreography. Now, you can imagine the difference between teaching the younger and the less experienced people, the ones that couldn't pick up the choreography I was giving them fast enough. Then I had to stop and teach it, and then I'd lose the flow, and then I'd have to reconnect. And inevitably, when I went back and had to help them clean those pieces of choreography, the challenges always were at the places where I had to stop and teach them. And that was the connection. That was the choreography layer. That was where there was a break in the momentum. Now, that's huge, because when we relate that to business, First of all, movement before perfection. You just have to get moving. You just have to start to create the system. You have to actually get something moving before you can start picking and poking on it. And every time you had to stop and teach, then there's always a little bit of a break. So I've created some ridiculous systems for companies. I particularly remember this one time where I was creating for this wonderful lady, had a great set of skills, had some really beautiful things she wanted to do. She described what she wanted to do. We did a choreography session. I was taking the notes and mapping it all out and figuring out what she needed. And I went away and I choreographed this beautiful system that included all the things she wanted and all the things she said she wanted to do, but it was too much for her. She didn't understand it. So I had to go back and teach. And as I went back and taught, she ended up deciding, I don't want to do that other stuff. Then a year down the road, she went, hey, can we go back to that map? Because that was pretty cool. And I think I'm ready for it now. I was like, yeah, because it was cool. It was a good map. It was a good system that had been built, right? And the same thing happens over and over again in your business. Sometimes the movement, even though it doesn't create perfection, it does actually help to create clarity. It does help to actually give momentum. And it does help you to get going so that there is something to fix. And of course, the more skilled the receiver, the easier and faster and better the choreography can be on the top. So what I found over and over again is that some of my best clients were the ones that I wasn't necessarily teaching from scratch, but already understood systems. Because I could go, let's do this. And they're like, awesome, let's do that. And so I could map it out. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to do that. And it was just go, 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 go. Right? Now, that doesn't mean if you're not great at systems that it's not helpful. It's just that's why I'm teaching so much about systems right now, because if you understand and you came to me and you said, hey, I love the E7S framework, and what I'm really missing is a great attraction system, and my nurture systems, they're a little bit weak. And I recognized after watching and learning about retention that I need to do and plug some holes in the retention side. And oh, by the way, my team choreography systems are not in place at all. So we need to fix those. Awesome. Let's get to it. Let's figure out the right way to plug the holes, or better yet, to just build a better ship. Right? Because if a ship has holes in it, it still has holes in it. What's better, a ship that has no holes or a ship that has holes that you've plugged up? I don't know. You tell me. So momentum before perfection. So that's one of our principles. The next principle that I want to cover is sequence creates significance. This is an interesting principle here. Because secrets, yes, definitely secrets if you're a marketer. Sequence creates significance. Why? Why is this the case? It's the case because the order in which you do things matters. I like to kind of think of it like just math. Let's take some basic arithmetic. If you're adding, not that big of a deal. 1 plus 2 is 3, and 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, but if you're subtracting, 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus 2 is, oh boy, we get a different answer, and we got a whole different can of worms we got to deal with. Same thing for multiplication and division. The order matters. It really does matter. And let me take this into the realm of choreography and dance for just a second. I want you to understand these principles on a deeper level, which is why I'm giving you the metaphors and talking to you about the metaphors of the principles, because I want you to understand it in multiple ways before I just tell you how it fits into business, right? But the concept of sequence creates significance is this. When I would choreograph routines for dancers, I loved to go fast. Now, I said that already. However, I would tell them, hey, we're going to go fast. We're going to create the blueprint for this choreography. The faster you can learn it and the faster I can go, the more likely it will have continuity and it will work together. And we will then go back and we will work on it over the course of the year leading up to your championship that you're prepping for. And as we did that, inevitably, what I would find is that there were times when the meaning or the significance of the choreography wasn't quite right. And what I found, again, over testing, over multiple years, was that if I could sometimes I just take a chunk or a piece of the choreography and I would say, let's just switch it and let's just put it here. And now we'll go into it from this other thing. And they're like, wow, that feels so much better. And then it would go into a new thing. And I go, wow, yes, that's it. And so now sometimes just re-sequencing a couple of parts would actually create a better significance of what it was that they were trying to execute. And remember, in dance, we're always trying to tell good stories, just like we are in business. And when we create choreography in your systems, sometimes as a choreographer, my first thought or my first idea or the first thing that we try to do is like really cool. And so we put it together and we map it. And then after we start to do it and execute it, we go, oh, okay, that sequence, let's do this. Let's just move the order. Let's just rearrange that sequence because that order might determine a better outcome. And this is huge, right? This layer of the choreography and this choreography principle makes such a difference. Sometimes it's literally just a matter of changing the order. I want to go back to the days before the pandemic. And life was different then. Life was different on the internet. Marketing was actually quite different prior to the pandemic. And one of the things that held true, and most marketers that were in the game since then would probably agree. I don't know. If you don't, it's fine. Let me know. But we were marketing different pre-pandemic. We were marketing in such a way where we were finding results by marketing our offers towards what the people were aspiring to get. They were aiming towards pleasure. Post-pandemic, everything flipped. And now you were finding more success if we marketed more towards the pain that people were avoiding. It was a whole mentality shift. It was a whole shift of the marketplace. And okay, it's possible that it wasn't across the board. However, it was pretty widespread. And I don't know that it's shifted yet. I don't think it's shifted back to the way it was before. People are still very much trying to avoid pain, and they're not as inspired to take action for gaining pleasure. And that's kind of a simple way to put it from a more personal development perspective. But the sequence mattered. So sometimes in your offer, when you work on your offer and create your offer, some of you that I've worked with have offers that are actually aiming at the pleasure that they'll get if they take you up on your offer. And you're like, this is a good offer. I don't understand. Why are they not taking it? When I talk to people, they go, yeah, I'd like to have that. Like if you actually explained it out, oh yeah, okay, I would definitely like to do that. However, sometimes it's just the sequence. Sometimes it's taking your same offer and saying, okay, I'm going to adjust the sequence. Instead of telling you about the pleasure you're going to gain in this transformation, I'm going to actually tell you about the pain you're going to avoid first. And then I'm going to tell you about the pleasure that you're going to gain. It's not that I'm going to not say either one. It's just that I'm going to change the sequence to give the offer more significance. And it will change again. There will be a time in the future, I think, when the whole market shifts. It's definitely a world economic feeling and state of mind. But I think the pandemic kind of feared everybody. Everybody became scared of a lot of things, right? And now that's one of the ways that the marketing has had to adjust for it, by adjusting the sequence. So it's important, right? Because you're using the same actions in a different sequence, and that could produce a different result. This is a really big deal, right? And understanding this choreography principle could make all the difference in the world, because sometimes it's easy to think, oh, I need a new system, right? And I do these risk and leverage diagnostics with companies. So if that's interesting to you, let me know. But when I do that, sometimes it's not about looking at this one system that they have and saying, oh, that system's wrong, we need to do a new system and start from scratch. But sometimes it's about saying, oh, look at that. That's in the wrong order. Or that order worked just fine. And you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, I created this and it worked just fine. And it was working all the way up until this point. And then it just stopped working. And sometimes it's just about the sequencing, right? And again, you can see how it clearly is connected across the board, whether it's for dancers, whether it's for business. Doesn't make a difference. It makes no difference what venue it's in. That principle, that choreography principle, actually has an effect on all things, right? And so that's what we use it for. We use it to sort of be an overall layer, and I can use it to diagnose. I can use it to go, oh, look, you're doing the retention system, but you've got it in the place of your nurture choreography. That's all out of order. Let's put that in the right order. Let's get a conversion system right after your nurture choreography, and let's get some momentum building, and then we'll put that same retention system somewhere else, right? So sometimes it's not about burning down the house and starting again, although sometimes you guys have built some crazy Frankensteins of a business, and I've seen a few of those where it's like, okay, well, let's keep something. What something are we going to keep, and let's rebuild around it? And that happens. Sometimes you know that, and you've even experienced that. Things get a little crazy when that happens, right? Okay, so those are two of the principles of choreography, right? And I feel like those two are first on the list here. Let me take my face, put it back here. Let's go here. And those are two inside the principles of choreography. Now, flow and transition, EEI, rhythm, the choreographer role, those are all important. We're going to get to those ultimately. Just wanted to spend just a little time here in the principles, right? Because these make such a big difference as you learn them and as you understand them. I mean, these are things that I've figured out over the course of a few decades. Like, this is not like stuff that came overnight. It's just lots of trial and error, and lots of trial and error in different venues. So please keep these in mind. I want you to look at your systems. I want you to look at the systems in your business and say, okay, maybe you're creating a new system. Maybe you've been inspired from one of our videos to create a new system or improve one of your systems. And so you're looking at it and going, okay, let me see. Movement before perfection. How does that matter? Oh, you know what? I've been thinking about this system for about 2 weeks now. You know who you are. Come on now. I've been thinking about this system for a long time. Awesome. Movement before perfection. Let's get some momentum going. Let's get this bike spinning its wheels. And then we'll work on perfection. Perfectation. That's not a word either. I'm knocking it out of the park today with made up words. So movement before perfection. So just get moving. Just get moving. You know, one of my favorite things, now I have my cool board, right? I have the cool systems board, but one of my favorite things to do is literally when I have an idea about a system or something that I want to create, I'll literally just take out one of those old archaic utensils that the dinosaurs used to use. It's called a pen, and I draw it on a paper. I know, it's crazy talk. Actually, I have if I'm not doing it on a note card, if I have to, I am oftentimes doing it in my notebook, and I love to sketch them out, right? I love being able to build these systems. Yeah, I'm definitely a systems nerd, okay? And these are cool, right? And sometimes as you deal with these systems, they start to overlap. That's why we started building some real basic ones, because they do overlap. They kind of layer over themselves, and that's when it gets a little bit hairy, as it were. Right? You're a wizard, Harry. Okay. I digress. Anyway, those are the principles, or two of the principles of choreography. There's a big old huge list of them. So that was not exhaustive by any means. And there's just a lot of things that I want to share, because you might be your only hope. If you're a Star Wars nerd, you know what I'm talking about. No, you might be your only hope to making this work, to making your system work for what you're creating. You might not have the ability to get anybody else. I mean, if you need help, please reach out, because that's what I do, right? But if you're strapped or you're the one needing to make the difference in your systems or figure it out, my hope is that these principles and these concepts and seeing these systems is going to help you to be able to choreograph something better. That's my hope. Now, if you haven't yet, go and join systemsforexperts.com. It's our free community. We have some free courses in there. Free. Okay, I know I probably shouldn't say free so many times. They'll probably ding me for that or something. But really, it's part of the play. So what's the catch, Michael? The catch is someday you'll need me. Someday you'll need me. Not because you figured it all out, but because you need the outside perspective. The world championship Latin dancers used to come to my studio when I had a competitive ballroom studio. And they still had their choreographers. Why? Because it's so hard to see the forest through the trees. When you've got a business running, when you've got something going, and you've been building it for a while, and it's hard for you to know or see or even have the energy to understand what's going on. It's rough. It's rough to find it. It's rough to see it. It's rough to be able to know what's really going on. And so what I want to encourage you to recognize is that just because you can doesn't mean you should. I love working with all you experts out there because you guys are all doing so many cool things to influence the world. If you're a consultant, if you're an expert, if you're an insight-led business where your experience, that's the product, that's the thing you're selling, then I really enjoy working on those systems. So if you need some help, let me know. And at the right time, I'll be here and we'll do some work together. We'll work on your systems. All right, so that's a couple of the principles of choreography. Let me know what you think about them. Let me know if you've used them. Let me know some of your metaphors that you use for those. And if you want to hear some more about those principles, let me know, and we'll do another one like this. I'm just kind of bouncing around to teach you more about the overall business choreography systems framework. And yeah, so let me know what you like. Let me know if you're like, that's stupid. You're welcome to your opinion. Everybody is. But that's what we'll end it with for tonight. Guys, go join systemsforexperts.com. Join the community. Get all the free stuff we're giving you. I mean, free stuff is free stuff, right? And it's good. And it'll teach you about some really cool things. All right. Rock and roll. Thanks for joining me. And if you're watching this on the replay or you're inside the community, let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help. All right, guys. Until next time, keep choreographing your business. And we'll see you on the next Backstage Choreo Live. Peace out.